there were a few questions about clipping for getting level, and tell me if you agree with this or not. I want to say yet again that the number one thing for getting loudness is getting a mix that has everything in its own place without competing frequencies, where you have the vocal sitting in a certain spot and nothing's and the low end feels big, but it doesn't feel cluttered, and the drums are hitting in the right way with EQ and a little bit of compression. That's going to be better for loudness than anything else. But once you get that figured out, how do you think about clipping? You know, we've talked about you do too much clipping, you start losing low end on things. What's your, it sounds like the compressor has a little bit of clipping.
Yeah, I think
converter has a little bit of clipping.
Yeah, most of the clipping that I do ends up being just clipping the A to D, like naturally on the way back in, and I just.
And that's the burl.
The burl, exactly. That's what I use here. I know the Lynx doesn't sound the same. The burl kind of clips a little different, but I'm not like I don't use much. I might use like the T-Rex clipper, and I use the standard clip in my mix. Like when I'm mixing things, sometimes I'll use that. And then there's this other one by.
What do you mean in the mix? Like on a snare drum or something like that?
Yeah, on anything that, yeah, on not really on a bus, but on an individual instrument usually. That's where I'll use it. It does really help, man. Like, or like say Gain Station, the Mike Dean plugin, that works really well to clip and stuff. I don't use that kind of stuff as much because I'm anyways hitting the burl, and I kind of, you know, I'm pretty mindful of gain staging, and like that's like I'm constantly going and like, you know, adjusting things back, bringing things up and down. But like I think it was like a producer told me a while back, and I was like, yo, how do you get like your 808s to like knock like that? And this is like, you know, just a while back, and he said it's not really about the sound of the 808 as much as it is about the notes, because you know some notes just in the song. They hit harder, and like that's why I've like we've spoken about this in the past as well. Like to like not just like when you're mixing your 808, you might have to go and like, you know, do other stuff, and like volume automation and the lower notes might get in the way. You might need to use like a surfer EQ, or you might just need to like separate them on a different track and treat them slightly different and like push different things, you know.
Yeah, different 808s will definitely feel different both in the body. I mean, if you do something that's like a low C at like 32 hertz, that's going to feel very different than a fifth up, and it's going to need to sometimes be processed differently because it'll hit a clipper or a compressor or your converters slightly differently, and so you'll then have to go and treat it before it hits all those things in order to achieve some sort of even thing. And then it also gets back to your monitoring better be pretty damn good, because if you're not hearing individual 808s, you're in a lot of trouble.
And if it's not as even as well, like it'll kind of affect everything else. Like it'll affect your mix bus, it'll affect the way things compress further on. Like, you know, if you have one really low note, that might squash it too much and stuff. So just as even, and that's really what mixing is, man, evening things out so that they all work well together.
Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. There's no Patreon. We don't read ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just trying to build a knowledge base. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks so much.